Yeah, but first, let's turn to Dedham, Massachusetts for the latest in the Karen Read murder retrial. Earlier today, the jury went to 34 Fairview Road to get an in-person look at the crime scene. Our own Matt Johnson is there live in Dedham. Tell us more about that, if you would, please, sir.
Yeah, we were along with the jury view. We were one of the media members to attend, and I can tell you this, it was a big production today. The bailiffs, they were sworn in here at the courthouse here behind me. Then the jurors, 9 men and 9 women, that includes the alternates, they loaded that large bus, and by police escort, they went to 34 Fairview. Out in front of that home, which is no longer owned by the Alberts, was Karen Read's SUV parked in front of the flagpole. Jurors spent a lot of time looking at the space, looking at her car, and also we were kept about 100 feet away. But once they reboarded the bus, we were able to get a closer look. Take a listen. Moments ago, the jury just exited the bus and they did a jury view here at 34 Fairview. This is the former Albert home. This is the flagpole that we hear about in court. And this is Karen Read's SUV. Now, during the pretrial motions, Karen Read and her defense team had argued that they wanted her present during the jury view. She didn't attend last year, and she did not attend this year. After court ended for the day, we asked her about it. Karen, what do you hope they noticed about the jury view?
Why not go on the view?
I don't ever want to go back to 34 Fairview.
What do you think about the text messages that they read out loud? Do you really care about
I have.
Right there, she says that she has been back, but she never wants to go back again. Court has ended for the day, but that is a powerful way to start the weekend.
Now, Matt, that house at 34 Fairview, of course, belongs to the Alberts. I understand that you got an opportunity to speak with one of the Alberts' former neighbors who actually still lives on that street. What did they have to say?
Yeah, Michael. So right away, you know, all of the neighbors came out of their properties and they were noticing all of the police presence and the media being kept back 100 feet. There was a man who we spoke with. His name is Jim Malver. He has lived in the neighborhood for more than 40 years, remembers that snowy night. Here's what he shared with me. Take a listen. Were there a lot of plow drivers coming through during the blizzard?
If there were, we didn't see them because it was, as I say, 6 o'clock in the morning. But even the plow driver said he came by at 2:30 and saw nothing. People leaving the party saw nothing. 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, they saw nothing. How can you not see a body lying near the flagpole? Friends of ours were bitten by Chloe. And in fact, they're on the witness list. I mean, the guy sells his house. He puts in a whole new basement floor. Suddenly his cell phone is gone. Suddenly Higgins' cell phone is gone. Come on. That's all innocent? No way.
This neighbor admitting that it's a talking point still to this day in the neighborhood, and the fact that it's still very divisive, not only on 34 Fairview in that block, but also this entire community.
Yeah, and it's so divisive. People are extreme one side or the other. But what he just said as a neighbor, I think, gives some insight. All right, Matt, what key testimony has stood out to you, please?
Yeah, there was key testimony today about the blood draw and also how they calculated Karen Read's blood alcohol level. That wasn't really explained to the jury about how intoxicated she may or may not have been. I'm sure Hank Brennan will present evidence about that later on. But then we also heard about the Section 12, the suicide watch, and Karen Read being very distraught at the hospital, calling John O'Keefe her husband, asking questions about him. And the last time that the two had spoke, she was telling this EMT that they were fighting. Take a listen to this.
One of the reasons why she was saying suicidal stuff is because the last conversation she had with her husband at the time was an argument.
Were you also made aware, did she tell you that her last words to him were in voicemails? Did she say that?
She didn't give any details.
Did you ask her, what were your last words to him?
I did not.
And I was seated right behind the O'Keefes in the media section. I had one of the 10 media seats, and I'm facing the jury. And I can tell you this, during that bit of testimony, almost every single juror was taking notes.
Oof, so much going on. Thank you so much, Matt Johnson. We know they're expected to resume court on Monday. Right now, let's welcome defense attorney Bob Bianchi. All right, Bob, Michael and I both listening to the neighbor who'd been living there for many, many years next to the family who no longer lives there, and hearing him talk about them, I think there was no love lost, and I feel like maybe that neighbor always felt like something was amiss in that home.
Sounds like the defense wants to call that neighbor as a witness if they could. Look, I mean, the neighbor is bringing out something, obviously, here with law enforcement officers, the way this case was investigated. Judge, we talked about this the last time we were on the show. When I prosecuted murder cases, if I felt that there was somebody or a police officer or an investigator that were doing things that were inappropriate and I started to question the value of the evidence I had, I would do the ultimate thing and dismiss a case because I'd rather a guilty person be freed than an innocent person be convicted. But this neighbor is basically bringing out information that the defense is very vocal about in terms of that it doesn't make any sense and it creates reasonable doubt in the case, and it does. This case was investigated in a horrible manner. It was sloppy. I's weren't dotted, T's weren't crossed. Was it nefarious? Was it done because they were just sloppy? But you're putting somebody's life on the line, and as a prosecutor asking them to be put away in jail for pretty much the rest of their life, you better make sure you have it right. Last point, Judge. We talked about this last time. I want to kind of follow up with this. When somebody says, I killed him, I did it, I was thinking of a case I had where somebody did that, and what they were saying was that I drove her away into the arms of the man who ultimately did kill her. Now, it turned out that person wasn't even the person who killed her. It's who he felt was the person that did it. But the minute he said the words, I killed her, people were ready to put handcuffs on the guy, and it wasn't even him.
Oh, that's a good point.
Fair enough. And, you know, I've said all along, those statements could be interpreted so many different ways.
I agree.
It seems like the state's putting a lot of weight into those types of statements. I don't at all, because I like you said, but there's a lot of ways it can be interpreted, a lot of reasons why someone might say it. The other thing that I'm struggling with, too, and we heard some of it today, they called the EMS talking about, you know, she was talking about the last time we spoke, we had an argument, Just yesterday, they showed us evidence that they said this was the beginning of the cover-up. Those were like the 50 calls that she made to him. Well, if she's calling him in that way for the cover-up, then why is she going to the EMT guy and trying to tell him we just had an argument? Wouldn't that be part of the cover-up as well, saying, I'm not going to mention the argument that we had, because that would be, you know, point the finger at me a little bit.
Michael, I agree 1,000%. I mean, that's the first time that I heard that testimony when we were coming on air and you guys played it. And I was thinking to myself, as an EMT, as a matter of fact, first of all, we aren't really engaging people in these levels of conversation, but assuming that it happened, what is the argument here by the prosecution? Is that the motive, that they were fighting, so she decided to roll him over and run him over and create this dastardly crime? Why would she say that to him? If she's looking to cover up these things and looking to hide what she did, this would be literally the last thing that you would say to somebody. So I looked at that as a major piece of evidence for the defense. Again, sometimes the prosecutor, we all do this as lawyers. You're looking at the case with rose-colored glasses, and what you think is so powerful for you really is powerful for the other side.
Yeah, so tell us what you think as a former prosecutor, and Michael and I have talked about this a little bit, but the jury view, I think it's fine. I think it's good. It puts everything in perspective. We know her car was there by that flagpole. We also know she decided not to go, telling Matt, I don't ever need to go back there again. What do you think it does for the defense or the prosecution to go see this place?
Well, I'll give you a really quickly both sides of it. I have never personally done it. I've wanted to do it as a prosecutor because I felt that it's important for, you know, to really put the jurors into the scene. The argument against it, which is typically successful, although it's losing its power in New Jersey, but has been successful for a long time, is that you cannot control what the jurors are seeing in a unified way. One person may witness one thing, another person may witness another thing, so it's very hard to contain how the information is coming to them, and you want the jurors ultimately to go into the jury room not based on personal perceptions of something that another juror may not have seen. That said, said, I think that we can trust jurors to be able to deliberate in a deliberative process, go to the scene. And to me, look, we always tell trial lawyers when you prepare a case, I'm sure you guys have done it too, never go to trial on a case where you have not gone to the scene to observe it, because many times people will say things that are just literally impossible. So why shouldn't the jurors who are making the ultimate determination of fact have that same opportunity?
Yeah, and under most circumstances, I would agree with you guys, but at the end of the day, for me in this instance, oftentimes when we've seen this, when you send a jury out to jury view, if there's an issue with bushes that were there but are not there, if there's a tree that was there that was not there, you got to deal with that.
And
under
there's
these
no
circumstances, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It was a completely, really off-kilter night because of the storm that was coming in. So that's the only issue I have with it.